Good evening, good evening. It is 8:01. Yeah, we're a little late, but you know what? Always on time for purpose. You know how we do. Come on, let's go. It's not too late, we better play. What we say? Good evening, y'all. Good evening. So good to see your face. Hey, Patty. Good to see you. Hey, baby. Good to see you. Y'all look so great today. I'm so glad to have you here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Y'all know the drill. You keep dancing. You should be feeling your most free self right now. We are freedom folk. And that is our agenda. Come on, let's go. So wonderful to see y'all. So glad to have this wonderful special guest. I hope you're tuning in from wherever you are and know that you are welcome to the stage, know that you are affirmed, that you are loved, and that you are advocating for it. So glad to have all of you. Welcome to Keep Living. You know way more than enough, so go ahead. Go ahead, do what you love. So wonderful to have you all. Thank you so much for joining, for clicking in, wherever you are, wherever you are. I don't know. Look, we're reaching out everywhere. And once again, just a special love and support from the First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, their communications team. Very excited about, of course, the amazing work of Justice and Delaney as we are continuously moving forward with Restream and communications and promotion. So I hope that you are getting caught up on all of this amazingness. But with all of this happening, I just want to say also just a huge thank you right now, because I am totally grateful, totally honored, beyond thrilled, like most of you, to have Mandisa, the founder of Black Non-Believers. I mean, what a treat, as always. We had her last time on the show, but it wasn't just, it was more so about COVID. So today we get to focus on what really empowers this incredible Black woman to do the work that she does, to hold space for free thinkers and Black free thinkers who are in many ways just breaking free from these religious ties that keep us bound and keep us in many ways feeling like there's no other way. It's something very powerful to have her. And her organization has been around since 2011 and still beautifully going strong. And as it continues to get across nationally, it is profound to see the effective work of, yes, Mandisa Thomas. So please, wherever you are, please welcome her, send her love, send her some hearts. If you on Facebook, those hearts. If you on Twitter, you just go ahead, just give any kind of love you got right now. Shout outs on the speech chat. I'm just really excited to have you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jay, for having me. It is always a pleasure to speak with you. And hello to everyone who has said hello so far. I know I can't type in my hellos. I always like to do that. But thank you all so much for joining us this evening. And again, it is a pleasure to be here. It is always great to speak with folks who, who get it. and who are always open to listening, and when we vibe, because this is a vibe. Let's talk about it. This is a vibe that we have, especially coming from our communities, coming from the Black community. And we need to, and people need to know that we are a part of this vibe, regardless as to whether or not they understand it or whether they want it or not. So it's this is something that is going to continuously grow, and I am always happy to dialogue and share with those of us who get it and who are still working towards that liberation for us all.
Come on, that's what we do here, and it's funny, I mean, I've as someone who sits and is always reading, I'm like, I'm so in the academy. I'm locked away in the academy. I feel like I'm locked in these like ivory towers and like literally reading all the time. And for me, I'm just so embodied. And I feel very, and so I often will say like probably the academy has been my religious space. So it's funny to also be like, how many ways can I set myself free from also this kind of idea of like academy as religious and institutional, right? That it's in many ways supposed to affirm my worth based off the things I learned, as and as I think about that, I first go to the place where, why did I go to the academy? I go to the academy because I'm thinking to myself, oh, I want, it's gonna give me a future, a brighter future, right? And the first thing that hits me is like, there's got to be more than future to this. And so having you today, I'm thinking to myself, like, how do we get to a place where, what is Black free thought? And where is the future of Black free thought? And, and how and what do we expect of that future? Where is it going? And what are you seeing as you continuously expand your own community and your own organization?
Yeah, so I'm like you said before, we started in 2011. Black Non-Believers just celebrated our 10th anniversary in New Orleans. We did a hybrid event. It was a cross between a smaller in-person event in New Orleans, which is one of my favorite cities, and I'm going to explain why in just a moment. We also streamed it live. The presentations are on our YouTube channel for those who are interested in watching them, along with other videos.
Okay.
So Black free thought for me starts with my maternal grandmother, who was a native of New Orleans. And that is a city that is so rich in history. There is so much of our ancestry that starts there, for better and for worse. And as I was growing up, I finally recall my grandmother, who loved her family and who always wanted to bring us together. But I will tell you, there was never any prayer. There was never any call for a religious ceremony in that household. It was always about, she was very festive. She loved cooking and she loved bringing the family together. But there was never any need, there was never any prayer, there was never any call to, well, there has to be paying homage to this higher being. It was about family. And that was something that I took with me. And that is the essence of free thought. Now, I do have religious aunts and uncles and cousins. And so there was this space where you didn't have to conform to just one way of being. You were allowed to have that sense of expression, even though I do contend that even within our families, there is still this institution that we still have to confront. But that is the foundation. Free thought has always been present within our communities, even during the times of our ancestors' enslavement in this country. There have always been those who rejected that spirit of that sense of bondage, whether it was physical or mental. And for us, it's about learning those lessons historically, and also perhaps drawing on those experiences that we've had from our childhoods, even as challenging as they were. And for me, it was a legacy of being outspoken and having that foundation of in education and critical thinking, as well as creativity and expression.
Mm-hmm.
And so I draw from all of that. And when we speak to free thought, it means that we have the ability to look at the historical factors, challenge them, and try to make them better
Yeah.
for not just our future generations, our children, but also for ourselves while we're still here. Because there is no afterlife. The only afterlife, and I've said this years ago, the only life after our deaths are the legacies we create while we are still here.
Mm.
So therefore, whether that is whether we live in infamy or hopefully we're leaving a great foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So it is up to us to do what we can for ourselves and and for our communities now,
Yeah.
and
Oh.
and and to try to and I'm sorry, I hope I'm not going on too
No,
long, but
you go ahead, feel it.
I think it is very, very important for more of us to realize that free thought within the Black community, it has never been a foreign concept. It has always been here. It has always been a part of our essence as a people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for us to get a better understanding of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. I came here to eat. So you can keep on serving. I'm already with your grandmother as an ancestor in this space, and we are honoring that, and we are honoring that legacy she left, because that's what it is. It really is. I mean, after the passing of my father, I've had to sit with so much of the fact. Like, I remember growing up, and and you know, my house carried a carried the religious tension at, growing up. Of course, I was apostolic, as y'all can probably tell, because I still got energy. I don't keep myself still for that very reason, probably. But then there was this other component. My dad listened oftentimes Motown, or to, or in many ways, was listening to Bobby Womack and all of those who were singing. And so on certain days, like literally throughout early in my day, I would be listening to all of, said I'm working my way back to you, babe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was just like, okay. And then Diana Ross, reach out and touch and it was that. And then I was literally with my mom, and we would be in a whole different,
Right. Right.
and then it was really interesting. And I'll never forget the tension, because the musicians used to play little beats from secular artists. I will never
Uh-huh.
forget when the beat dropped during a prayer service. Okay, a beat dropped during a prayer service on it was Biggie Smalls, and that beat for I love it when you call me, and
Uh-huh.
I
That
was like,
comes from the Isley brothers, Between the Sheets.
come
Come on
on,
now.
right?
Come on now. Let
Right? It was like, but you gotta admire that about Black free thought, because that is innovative.
Right.
That, in many ways, it wasn't just about the drawing. It was the fact that actually what was being preached from the pulpit was not necessarily always what was taking place in the thinking in the pews, right? Not everybody was thinking the same thing. And so, like, it's really awesome to have an organization literally invested in really exercising that critical muscle. It is a critical muscle to be free.
Correct. And I'm going back to what when you referenced reach out and touch someone's hand. Now, you notice that wasn't a religious song at all. Now, it is quite possible that someone religious possibly wrote it. However, those are secular messages. Those are humanistic messages. And I think it's important for people to understand that their religious experiences do not separate them from humanity. It is there is there are religious people who have sexual thoughts. They have emotional thoughts. And I think the problem with the institution of the traditional church is that you're supposed to be robbed of that. You're supposed to be robbed of that aspect of humanity, which has often robbed women of our expression, of our identities, of this idea that we're just supposed to serve and not enjoy. And that also transfers over to other aspects. However, when you said, like you said, when you hear the infusion of the other music and the other elements, you realize that there's always been that resistance. You can't fight that for long because people are going to find a way. And so it's better for us to just embrace it, to embrace all of that rather than try to hide it. And yes, that is repression. That is oppression. And this
Yeah.
is and this becomes more of us oppressing ourselves rather than us being oppressed by others. And that's something that we absolutely must be mindful that we are not doing to each other. Because I think at times now this is what we're trying to beat back and trying to combat this
You
idea that we are continuing to do this to each other, and we
know,
we can't.
this you're hitting on some really beautiful things because I when I was doing my exhibition just recently last week, and you know um of course I deeply focused on the body, particularly even as a minister, even as a clergy, right, within the framework of humanism. I have always found that it is so important to actually reclaim the narrative that was taken away from many folk around their sexuality, around their body. It's like as if it's a taboo thing. And it's like, what other place that was I able to kind of arrive to that was until I really got to this place where I was like, like I'm a free thinker. And of course, I pushed on that notion even further because I know that my work requires not just this kind of free thought, but it is an embodied practice to the point where I'm a free former. When you see me, you have to acknowledge the form in which I've come to you, because I'm not just going to present to you these little things, and I should bring you into question constantly. And I think the more that we push on our religious spaces in general and push and oppose them, in opposition, to have them even question what is the legitimacy of the body. Why must we constantly ignore the body? And I think you bring that. I was so glad that you even talked about Black women and the fact that Black women have experienced such a horrific undermining regarding this. And this is why I was like, no, I got to start this off with you, because if anything, your voice speaks and undermines, like in many ways undermines what humanism has always thought it was, right? Because I trump that, right? And I'm here on that. And I got to do some, I came to put my voice to this. So what y'all thought was a Western construction is also not just it's a Black thing too. And I really appreciate that you have in many ways been an anchor and a mother to those who, you've actually taken. I don't know how you would see it in that way, but I definitely do, Um,
I will tell you, it's interesting that isn't. If you would have told me, first of all, even a year from when we started this, that it would get to this point, um, I would have said no. As a matter of fact, I remember one of our members, one of our former members, who on the very day she said, "You know what, Mandisa, I'm going to need your autograph now because it's going to be worth something later." I was like, "You know what? Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about." That very same day, I looked in our email account and there was an inquiry from Jet Magazine. And what was interesting about that is I remember what it was like claiming or reclaiming my atheism, reclaiming my humanism, reclaiming my status as a free thinker. It was liberating for me, because even though I wasn't formally raised or indoctrinated into religion, I certainly was indoctrinated with these ideas of what it meant to be respectable, or to put on this, to be in this space where I couldn't be myself. So therefore, I would say for me, I remember what it did for me, and I remember what it did for expressing myself. I remember what it did um, for others who reached out to me, and just in building that community, it just really, really made me more whole, knowing that there were others out there who I could connect with. And it wasn't this space of, well, you're wrong. Your doubts are wrong. You just need to pray on it. You just need to, reclaim it back to this, something that I never claimed in the first place, right? So, and whenever someone tries to repress me, I do tend to fight back against that. So I think for me, it was definitely just me wanting to do what I felt was necessary, or what was necessary. And I also just wanted to lend my voice to what I saw was already out there. I certainly wasn't the first one to have done this. There were others. I found that there were other Black atheists, non believers, humanists, free thinkers, and others who were expressive of this, of this perspective. And that excited me. That excited me to want to contribute to this. And just, as an organizer, as someone who, does try to work together, as a team and with people as much as possible. This was just me wanting to connect. This was me wanting to help build on something that I know was monumental to me. And knowing that there were more people who were probably going through the same thing, it was important for them to know that even if their voices weren't as even if our voices aren't as plentiful as we see from the other side, there are certainly many more of us out there. And so just really, really wanting to just avail myself. Um, and but I, again, and then also coming from the perspective of being from the Black community, being a hip hop fan, being, a child of, creativity, being, being a singer, wanting to lend, my talents and my skills to this. It just really, really made a huge difference for me. And again, this wasn't something that, there are some people who get involved because they intentionally want to change, or they want to be seen as a beacon of change. For me, it was based on how I was elevated and liberated, and just being able to relate to others. That's how you really affect change, is letting people know, you
Mm,
know what, I go through it too. I
mm.
understand what you go through because I've been there.
I'm sitting with this. I'm sitting with everything that you're throwing at me, because I'm just thinking to myself, like, I guess, my question to you is, think about your, like, what were the core values that brought, that keep your Black free, that preserve you, that keep you in your aliveness, the actual aliveness. When I talk about aliveness, I actually, in short, I actually come from a place of a performance theory with that, and I'm really interested in, like, it's like the juice that keeps you going. As we say in the Hindi
Mhm.
translation, rasha, the juice that gets you going. What has been those core values? If you could share that with us.
Yeah, sure. So there's a combination of things, right? So there was always an emphasis on education, in our household. There was also like an essence of fighting. And you know, the word Sankofa was one that was very 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 familiar to me growing up. You know, return and you know and claim it. And this is something that as a community we definitely need to claim. I think what keeps me going is knowing that there were, you know, ancestors who resisted and who fought and who always challenged the narrative. So I walk with their spirits, for a lack of a better word. You know,
Yeah.
there are people who have done this before me. This is again, this is not a foreign concept. It
No,
is
it's not.
about again reclaiming that narrative, re-educating the folks who need it, and knowing that this was absolutely necessary. I am a product of the Black community, and I know what we are capable of. I know what we have done. We are, you know, we have endured a lot, and we also have achieved excellence. And there is a level of excellence that is rooted in resistance and challenging this institutional narrative that more people not only need to be aware of, but that they need to acknowledge and accept and also
Hmm.
incorporate into our community. So it's the strength of knowing that we've always had to fight, even though we shouldn't always have to fight, but knowing that we always have and that we always have claimed this. And I will not be silenced by anyone. And I think, you know, my journey of, you know, knowing that you know, realizing that if somebody is just trying to tell me something that I'm just supposed to accept it, I'm like, whoa, hold up. You know, like let's pump the brakes on that. You know, let's verify, you know, let's look deeper
Hmm.
into this.
Yep.
And I think and also as I have my family, as I have my, you know, as I raise my children, and as again, we are as my husband and I are raising critically thinking children and children who will be non-conforming and children who will be potential leaders and creators.
Hmm.
They need to know that we are advocating for them and that they will have the ability to speak and not know that there is a place that they have to accept. And this is you know and this is what keeps me going even when it gets hard, because I will tell you it gets hard sometimes, you know, as I challenge a very male dominated, you know, community and male dominated um perspectives, just in this society. It becomes very very challenging at times, and so sometimes we have to throw that energy back and say, hey, this is not, you know, this is not the day that we're going to do this. And so waking up and knowing that every
Hmm.
day is just another day to get it right, and that we have an opportunity to incorporate those values and to try to incorporate a level of positivity, but also live in dealing with reality. We just and we've
You
done
know,
what I'm doing what we've always done. Just we keep going.
yeah. I think that's, you know, that's been much of my motto with this, it being in this collective, right? This collective. It is so it really is a thing of like, no, in the word, yeah, thank you, Elise, not today. Like it is a real not today thing. And I'm so curious. I know we're at last little time, but I'm curious because I like to stay abreast. You know, the Roy Speckhard, you know, is coming to the end of his kind of position around being executive director, and I am curious to, you know, his remarks, the importance of having Black voices. How is that, is this moment right now? How pivotal is this moment, and what do you believe will happen with humanism if when Black voices are actually put on the front page, becomes a part of the image of, you know, this movement?
Yeah, so this is extremely pivotal because while at Black Nonbelievers, this is what we do. We center those Black atheists, humanists, and free thought voices. However, for one of the major national humanist secular organizations to have someone Black or brown at the helm and who's also done a very good job of diversifying and being more inclusive on their board. So it is more about just having that person in place. It is about it is about changing the overall culture. And so, we're looking at an organization that is almost 80 years old. It has never had anyone Black or brown at that particular position. There have
Mhm.
only been two instances of people of color or even Black women on the cover of their magazines, of the Humanist magazine. It was Alice Walker and then the Five Fierce Humanists, which included myself, Dr. Sakivu Hutchinson, my homegirl Bria Crutchfield, Candace Gorham, and others. So, at this moment, it is definitely it's definitely a time of put your money where your mouth is. And this is what we need to
Woo!
see more
Y'all heard?
organizations doing, not just not just changing the culture of that organization, but also supporting the Black and Black led organizations that do this work. Because if we're
Yes.
talking about 10 years of Black nonbelievers and us centering and developing, those voices and developing our voices. And that definitely needs, it doesn't have to be just one organization doing it. There definitely has to be a culture of folks doing so in ways that are not just meaningful, but that actually reflect the changing in the times and also what it means to be humanist. I am an advocate and proponent for practical humanism, not just sitting in the back and analyzing everything or sitting on this ivory tower, if you will, putting it into practice, putting it into place and what we do every day, and not just what we do when we're speaking in the public spectrum or in the public arena. This
Mhm.
has to be what we do every day. And I'll tell you something, it is not glamorous to do this every day. It is tiring. It takes a routine. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. And it's also going to take for people to truly understand that it is hard work. And for folks who are in a privileged space,
Don't
it's going to take some getting
don't
used to, but
don't tell my business now. You know how I'm working over here.
yeah, I'm telling you.
You're really struggling.
I'm telling you, this is speaking from doing this for, and working this and wearing so many hats in
Yeah.
this movement and connecting with so many people like yourself and your network and everyone here. And I just love and appreciate it. And so what we're seeing now is hopefully the infusion of the humanism that we've already known that existed, that others need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this moment is very, very crucial, so that it doesn't just become a moment, that it becomes a part of what we do daily and regularly.
Look. Let this not be a moment.
Hmm.
I want to just you just gonna sit with us. I'm gonna thank you. I can I tell you, if you lucky, I'm still Pentecostal on the deep inside of myself. I'd be like, let's linger a little bit longer. Let's tarry a little longer.
Yes.
But I just I can't thank you enough. Can't thank you for taking the time out to be with us. All of those people who are out here watching, you know what to do. Very, very important. I would say if you have not, please feel free. Please, and as it gets up on the screen as well, donate to Black non-believers. Continue to let me tell you, support and trust Black women. Okay, movement, support, and trust Black women. Very specific about that because that's important. And I want us to not see it as just as a very specific thing, see it within the framework of it also being important because it adds to the larger conversation that these voices don't disappear. So I want to thank you so much, Mandisa. I don't want to get full, but I thank you for bringing your ancestors into the space. I thank you for bringing that wisdom in your community. That is, that of course, you got a lot of love. We can kick this music. Y'all know how we do here. We move it. Just moving our living rooms right now, but later get out and moving it and things like that. I am so grateful to you, my love. I send you kisses and hugs. I wish I was in Atlanta to create some actual humanist ruckus. As some of them know me, they know me as the holiness humanist. I love to create some human ruckus.
And I love to make things happen too. So I mean, I look forward to it, and I really appreciate everyone who has tuned in, and who has supported. It means so much to me, and this this connection with you, Jay, just it really really does mean a lot. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and dance it out if we can. Everybody, I see you. If you get it, I'm sure you're seeing all the love. So I'm just, and trust me, it looks like you might be the next one that they want to see for the
I don't, what do we say? We speak. What do folks say? Claim it or speak it. It's interesting. Look, right? We'll see.
I tell you, we need this. Thank you, Elle. Yes, we do. We all need to work to how we make this better.
Yes.
We really do. So, we had a wonderful time. I'm so glad to have y'all. Justice, we got my music, love. There we go. Be well, y'all. Love yourself in the process. Y'all know how I say it. If anything, make goodness and sexy probably the days of your life. You better make good what you're doing. I'm talking about hey. Have a good night. Good to see all of you. Thank you for the time with us. If you haven't, make sure that you donate. We appreciate your support for this wonderful. We cannot ignore voices that are rising. Get behind them, or I don't know what other words to get away. Look, keep it real. Well, way more than enough. Go ahead. Good night. A beautiful one. Thank you, Mandisa. As always, you are welcome here. And anyone else that you know who continues to do the same work that we are doing as it relates to love, justice, and compassion and freedom.